I get so many stories from people who watch these videos. I get them from Facebook, on email, of course over at YouTube, and I get a ton of stories from Twitter. One of the best people on Twitter who sends me stories is this gentleman, A.J. McDonald Jr. He is a bird dog on finding these stories of black mob violence and black on white crime and properly identifying them as things that all of us should be paying attention to so we can connect the dots and talk about this crazy level of black on white crime that is wildly out of proportion. So anyway, a couple hours ago, this comes in on my Twitter stream. Car salesman beaten, robbed while on test drive with teenagers. And, he made sure I saw it by, of course, putting the little @Colin Flaherty sign down there. I thought, well, AJ almost always sends me the new things that I haven't seen yet. Most other people haven't seen yet. I thought, it's not like him because I already saw this one. I saw the one where the car salesman was beaten and robbed by a bunch of black people who took his car out for a phony test drive. So I was about ready to send him off a little thing saying, hey, AJ, you're slipping. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I better check this story. My bad, AJ. That's a news story. I think it was out of Toledo, Ohio. Toledo and Akron are two places that there's all sorts of bad things going on there, but you never hear about them. They're just buried out there in Ohio. Anyway, why don't we do two things? Why don't we look at the story from a couple of months ago in Houston, where a bunch of black people did the exact same thing to a car salesman in Houston. And why don't we look at the story AJ caught for us today, right after that?
That's your little boy.
Melissa Martinez has a lot to smile about when it comes to her little boy, her youngest son, 22-year-old Jose Martinez.
He did good. That's all he did really good, damn good.
You see, Jose's quick thinking likely saved his life. He was at work last night. He's a salesman at the Gilman dealership on the Beltway, where it meets Southwest Freeway. Mom Melissa says what seemed like a routine test drive turned out to be anything but.
One thing he noticed a car following them, and then once he told the gentleman to turn in a certain street, and he didn't, he kind of put two and two together, and he goes, something's going down.
Jose and who he thought was a customer were test driving a red Dodge Challenger. His mom says another car followed. Both cars came to a stop. 3 men, she says, beat Jose and threw him in the trunk. Jose wasn't going down without a fight. He outsmarted his captors, pulling the release latch in the trunk. He got out, and the fighting continued.
While he was fighting, one of them had a gun, and he dropped it, and Jose picked it up and shot him.
So he shot him?
Mm-hmm.
Where was he shot? Do you know?
In the neck.
Jose ran for his life, but his smarts were still at work. While in the trunk, he called a friend. He also turned the tracker on his phone. That led police to the car here at South Derry Ashford Road. His kidnappers got away.
He was pretty badly beaten.
Place at the right time. It's likely they saved a man from being shot and even killed. Those officers were even able to track down and arrest the men responsible. Our Michelle Zepeda spoke with the victim and learned firsthand how this all happened.
It all started here at ERS Auto Sales on LaGrange. The two suspects showed up here wanting to test drive a car, so the owner got in the car with them, and that's when the crime began. Muhammad has owned his business for over 20 years. He admits he's been robbed 3 times, but has experienced nothing like he did on Friday. Minutes after leaving this lot on a test drive, the two suspects pulled the car over here on Austin and Chestnut and got in the back seat.
Started hit me with the gun in my head. Give me your money, all the money you got. I tell him, give you your money, stop to hit me. You say, no, kill him, go ahead, shoot him. He cockins again, he want to shoot me. I tell him, stop, man, we give you all my money I have. Why you want to kill me?
Just then, 2 officers patrolling noticed something wasn't right.
Police officers, they come in on certain time I need it. Because if they still hit me another 1 minute or 2 minutes, they almost kill me.
Those officers chased these 2 teenagers, Samuel Connor and Antonio Hadley. Both were armed with guns. They were arrested and now face several serious charges and could also face charges of kidnapping. Lieutenant Heffernan says the arrest is an example of excellent police work.
And noticing something that was out of place, and then the apprehension of 2 armed suspects that were viciously beating somebody, just doesn't get much better than that as far as police work goes.
In North Toledo, Michelle Zepeda, WTOL 11.
Hey, can I take a minute to tell you my favorite Toledo story? It's a little bit involved, but it's kind of funny. So anyway, I was listening to NPR when I was listening to a podcast. I think I was listening to Radio Lab. And they were talking about these guys from Iraq, this defense think tank. They wanted to solve the problem of these IEDs that were hurting so many of our combat soldiers over there. So they came up with this idea to put a plane, kind of a drone or a plane in the sky, and the drone would take a high resolution picture of a wide area every second. I think that means because they're actually taking a picture instead of doing video, I think that means the resolution is way better. So you take one every second. So if you have, say, something happening at the corner of 1st Street and Fallujah Avenue at 4:35, you just roll back you look at the pictures at 4:35, you zoom in on that corner, and then you can see exactly what happened at 4:35. And here's where it gets interesting. You can back it up for, every second, right? You back it up. Then you can see who came to that corner. And, for minutes, hours before. Then you could see where they went. Very interesting. And so they used it to great effect. They used it they came to America and they said, well, let's see if we can get somebody to test it here. Couldn't get anybody. And here's where Toledo comes in. But anyway, they tested it across the border. I don't know if it was Matamoros or Juarez, I forget where. And so they had this, they didn't tell anybody they were testing it. So they had the drone up there and taking pictures. And one of the a female cop was assassinated. So they rolled the pictures back, and there she was. They had the picture of the exact time, her getting out of her house. They rolled the pictures back. They could, and half a block away, they could see somebody start to pull out of a driveway. They followed it into the future. They saw another car get out of another driveway to block her off. All of a sudden, she's blocked from the front and the back. They keep rolling the pictures forward. The guys get out of the car, surround the car, kill her. Then they kept following the pictures. So these 2 guys hop out of, take off. Turns out there was other stuff happening at the same time around the rest of the city. And all these guys went to the same place, like 16 cars went to the house of this, huge drug trafficker down there. And I think they were able to do something to those people. But anyway, here's the interesting part here. So they take it up to Toledo. I think it was Toledo. It might have been Akron, but I think it was Toledo. They take it to Toledo. And as soon as the guy on the Radio Lab started saying, yeah, we took it to here and there, we went to Toledo, the first thing I thought is, I thought, they're not going to want that in Toledo, because in places like Toledo and Camden and Wilmington, Baltimore, you know what I'm talking about, all these chocolate cities, the criminals are viewed as they're alternately victims and heroes, but they're really not people you're going to turn into villains. They're the victims. The people who catch the criminals, the cops, they are the predators. And so the guy talked about how they gave their song and dance to the city council, and at the end of the story they go, yeah, well, they rejected us. They didn't want to do it. The guys, they were going to do like a free test run. They didn't really say why, and I said, come on, tell us why. I know why, because those black members of that city council got up there and said, no, we don't want your thing here because it's bad. Anyway, so I'm just listening. And the thing kind of runs down, getting ready to turn my little iPhone off because the show's over. But they're just doing little clips from the show while they do their audio credits. And all of a sudden, a councilwoman from from Toledo appears in the credits in that part of the show, and she goes, well, how can you assure us these cameras won't be used in a racially insensitive way or a racially biased way? It's like, oh, this is perfect. That's, and then, a couple weeks after that, I was reading my little hometown newspaper, Wilmington, Delaware. They're talking about traffic cameras here. These are the ones that, catch you going through red lights. And the local newspaper, this is the editorial board. They published an editorial that said, well, because they catch more black people in these traffic lights, breaking the traffic laws, that means the cameras are racist. That's how crazy things are now. When crazy things happen, you go, oh yeah, that's never happened before. Then you go, oh no, that happened just a few weeks ago. And still we get people ignoring, denying, condoning, excusing, encouraging, and even lying about the level of black mob violence. And how black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism all the time, everywhere. That explains everything, especially why cops are always picking on black people for no reason whatsoever. You think I'm making that up and I'm exaggerating it, that people actually say that?
Something is just fundamentally broken when African Americans are more likely to be arrested by police and sentenced to longer prison terms for doing the same thing that whites do. When too many encounters with law enforcement and tragically...
That, of course, was Hillary Clinton in a recent campaign ad. Bernie Sanders is even worse. It's kind of interesting to see these guys. It's like they're playing poker, or it's like they're at a horse auction where they just keep outbidding each other to see who can do the most to convince us that black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism. That's the greatest lie of our generation. That's why we're doing these videos. That's why I want you to go get Don't Make the Black Kids Angry and read it. You've already read it. Give it to somebody. Because the only way I know to fight this enormous lie that Hillary and Bernie Sanders hope to ride into the White House is with the truth. That's what we're doing here. So if you're ever in Houston, if you're ever in Toledo, looking for a new car, maybe you got a few extra bucks in your pocket, you want to go big, get yourself a nice new SUV, hey, go ahead. Have fun. Treat yourself. Just remember one thing. Don't make the black kids angry.